Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, another special edition of the Terrible Podcast, Pittsburgh Steelers Training Camp 2026. I am Dave Bryan from SteelersDepot.com, and with me, as usual, the one, the only Alex Kozora, fresh off of his fifth trip to Saint Vincent College in Latrobe to watch the Steelers practice, and Monday was their first day in pads, so we're going to have probably a little bit more to talk about today. Alex, what is today? Monday. All right, happy Monday.
It's Monday, but as you said, more importantly, first day in pads, and so really felt like football for the first time in a long time. So as you said, a lot to talk about, much more with the trench play for us to delve into, so I don't want to waste much time. So let's get into it in a second.
All right, let's get right into it. But before we do, we always like to shout out our sponsor, Touring Plans, the fine folks over there. Alex, tell the people why they should know what Touring Plans is and what Touring Plans is.
They're a great partner of the site, and for those wanting to take a trip to Disney sometime maybe later this year, so longtime sponsor. All their information and links are at the top of the page in today's diary. Touring Plans uses math and science to help families save time and money on theme parks like Walt Disney World and Disneyland. You can find on their app a crowd calendar showing the best days to visit each park when there's the fewest amount of people possible, step-by-step plans to avoid waiting in line for hours. I'm waiting in line in the parking lot to leave training camp for a half hour each day, so I wish I had something like Touring Plans. Views from every hotel room and big-time discounts on theme park tickets. So check out their site and their app. It's touringplans.com, and tell them Steelers Depot sent you.
Absolutely. Anytime you think about Disney, you should be thinking about Touring Plans and how to make your trip, cruise to any other parks more enjoyable and save time in the process. So we appreciate them once again sponsoring these special episodes of the Terrible Podcast. All right, Alex, the pads went on. Let's talk about maybe the flow of practice. And I have a note in here for myself to ask you about the physicality of it, particularly from maybe what you remember the first day in pads compared to what Mike Tomlin used to run.
Well, 7 shots still isn't there, and backs on backers did not occur today. I know Mike McCarthy before practice said he's a proponent of it, open to the idea, but it did not happen on Monday. Could it happen later this week when practices get longer? Maybe. We'll see. It was still a pretty physical, spirited day. It probably didn't rival the exact intensity, physicality of the Tomlin tackling sessions, and as we said before, even under Tomlin, it was only really one live period when it was full tackle, that team run session. So it's not like it's tackling throughout the entire time. But did I miss that element of it? A little bit, sure. Just, one example, I think the first run team in the kind of the more physical period, Jalen Warren right side, Asante Samuel close in the gap. He has his run fit fine, but I would love to see him actually make the tackle instead of kind of just escorting and sort of thudding Warren through. And so just little things like that, but still a pretty good day of work, and obviously a lot more intense than it was the first days during that padless ramp-up period.
All right. Anything else stick out to you a little bit different other than the pads coming on? Still working the two fields, I suppose?
Yeah, that spot too. Now that was just for the initial warm-up or walkthrough period, so it's not exactly like the most high-intensity reps. When they came together for their team run period and the 2-minute drill, then that's all just one unit working on the near field, which is certainly nice. They did go through O-line, D-line, pass rush drills today, which they did do 2 at a time, so couldn't chart every play, but I got a lot of it there and watched the starters and have some good information on that. So a couple more elements added to practice today. I'm sure that'll continue later throughout this week.
All right, let's get right into kind of the position groups like we like to talk about. The quarterbacks.
Do you want to start injury?
I'm sorry. Yeah, the injuries. And boy, do we have one today too as well. Apologize for that. Had a player that was carted off, and anybody else get nicked up?
Yeah, that was wide receiver Cole Burgess, I think second-year player. They deem it first-year player, first year with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I believe it happened during 7-on-7. That was occurring at the same time as the O-line, D-line pass rush drills, and so I was watching that. Did not want to watch 7-on-7 in that moment, so I don't know how it happened. It did look pretty serious. Burgess appeared to be in a great deal of pain, had to be assisted as he was put into the cart. I couldn't tell what the nature of their injury was. It might have been lower body, but I really just could not get a good sense of it, but it did look potentially serious, and so would not be shocking, unfortunate for Burgess if there was a waived injured move tomorrow. Logan Lee, defensive lineman, did not practice today, did not see any visible sign of injury, but obviously he's dealing with something to not even put a helmet on and work in individual period. Deshaun Elliott continues to be limited. Dante Kent, Jalen Ramsey, Joey Porter Jr. remained on PUP. Ramsey a little more jogging today, but still going to be a little ways away. And Rayshawn Jenkins, the new safety, wearing number 31, Darnell Savage's old number. He was working maybe not in every team period today, but most of them. So he was basically all hands on deck in his first Pittsburgh practice.
All right, let's see. We already covered the move with Jenkins, and obviously Savage being released as the back end of that move there, and we'll wait to see what happens with these injured players. Boy, that's not great news for Logan Lee this early on in training camp. Hopefully, he can get over what was it with him? A calf recently? I mean, the last year.
I think he was healthy last year. His rookie year, he had
Okay.
a calf injury that put him on IR. It was one of those, it's enough to put him on IR, but it's not like a season-ending injury, but he was
Right.
kind of stashed as a late-round rookie. At least that's what he said way back when, but I think he was healthy throughout most of last year.
All right, the Steelers did have a former Texas Tech linebacker Terrell Tillman in for a visit on Monday. Nothing has happened there yet. CJ Ayu ought to have some intel on him, being as how he's a Texas Tech product, and I believe that's a kid too that was part of the invite list for the rookie mini camp a couple of months ago as well too. So you and I maybe will talk a little bit more about him and some of these injuries and other things that Mike McCarthy had to say, and even Aaron Rodgers to some degree on the Monday show there. So have we got through the housekeeping part then?
I think we're good to go to the positional.
All
groups,
right,
Dave.
let's talk about the quarterbacks then and what you observed out there in the first day in pads at Saint Vincent College.
They ended in 2-minute drill with Aaron Rodgers and Will Howard getting the chance, and neither quarterback could put the offense into the end zone. Aaron Rodgers had a good drive, going a couple of key connections to DK Metcalf, but miscommunication between him and Rico Dowdle, the back of the end zone around the 8-yard line, picked off by Patrick Queen, and then Will Howard got down to similar territory before his drive stalled out, incompletion to Brandon Smith on the final play, broken up by rookie Dalen Everett. But thought there were some good balls from Will Howard, Drew Aller on some of those dig routes against zone coverage, kind of fitting the ball into windows and hitting guys in stride. Aller, I still want to see that short, intermediate accuracy be more consistent. Still kind of some misses from him there, and just even watching they're throwing footballs into nets because the receivers were working elsewhere. Aller had a couple of good ones where I think he got it right in the little pocket that you're aiming for, but just as my eye, one rep, Howard, perfect in the net. The next one, Aller goes and throws it over the entire net. And so just kind of finding the consistency with that accuracy, it all comes down to footwork and being really mechanically sound. So still want to see that from him, but there were certainly some positive moments for Aller today.
Tell me about that deep ball to Burgess before he left injured. I think it wasn't too long after that is when the news surfaced that Burgess went down and had to be carted off there. Didn't get a real. All I know, there is a little clip on there, but it's from a different angle. How do you have an idea how far that ball went?
That was during the 7-on-7 and the O-line, D-line rush drill, so I was not watching
Okay.
7-on-7 because I can get to watch, some of their team stuff throughout, and I wanted to see, obviously, anytime there's physicality, I want to be able to watch that drill, so I did not see that play. Did Aller throw that football? Do we know the quarterback of that play?
Yeah, we know it
Okay.
was Aller on the play, but that's all. I just didn't know whether or not you had a distance on that or not.
Yeah, I can't give any additional
Uh,
color to what happened there, unfortunately.
All right, maybe we'll see another clip or so surface of that there. Anything else on the quarterbacks that struck you today?
I mean, there was some sloppiness for the offense as a whole. There was one botched exchange. Well, I'm not sure it was a botched exchange, but Mason Rudolph taking the handoff. The snap looked clean, and then as Rudolph was trying to hand the ball off to the deep back. He lost control of the football. It bounced away. He picked it up. Herbig tagged him. I'm not sure if there was some sort of snafu with the snap that kind of created the issue, or if Rudolph just lost control of the ball or his foot got stepped on, but there was some sloppiness and false starts. And so I think McCarthy talked about that on the McAfee show. Kind of felt like that first day in pads where the offense really wasn't fully in sync, some miscommunication with receivers and the Rico Dowdle play that we just talked about. So kind of, the defense won the day, I would say, as the offense was trying to find their footing.
All right. If you don't have anything else on the quarterbacks, interesting enough, Michael Silver from The Athletic, who's goes way back with Aaron Rodgers from his time at Cal, evidently talked to the quarterback over the weekend there, and Aaron said in so many words that 30 to 40 plays maybe for him during the preseason that he doesn't really want to, but Mike wants him to. And I guess we'll see how that goes. Mike McCarthy, as you would expect, was asked about that during his morning press conference and kind of said, we'll see how it goes when we get to that point. So that'll give us a little talking point on the next full podcast. I don't want to get too deep into that, but obviously if Aaron Rodgers took any snaps during the preseason, whether it be 10, 20, 30, 40, that would take away from, the other guys, obviously, in Mason Rudolph, Will Howard, and Drew Aller. So we'll see how that goes and see if Mike McCarthy changes his mind between now and the first preseason game. Interesting enough, the first two preseason games are against the Packers and the Jets, both former, teams of Aaron Rodgers. Not that Mike McCarthy would play him just for that sole purpose only there, but it's just interesting nonetheless that that's the way the preseason schedule worked out there. All right, let's go to the running back position. Anything stick out with that group today?
That there was success with the run game. It's a little harder to judge it when you can't tackle in some of those team run periods, but there were some holes opened up and a couple of decent runs by Warren and Johnson, and Dowdle was trying to pay attention to the rotation and just in their initial warm-up, not against the defense, was looking at how the rotation went. Rico Dowdle took the first two snaps. Jalen Warren came in, took the next two snaps, and then Travis Homer came in, took the next two snaps. Both of those out of shotgun. Dowdle and Warren, their looks came out of the I formation, where the quarterback was under center, and then Caleb Johnson came in with the twos in Mason Rudolph. So it went Dowdle, Warren, Homer, and then Caleb Johnson. That was kind of the flow of it during practice, too, in some of the team periods. So I think it's fair to say Dowdle was running ahead of Warren for the majority of practice today and getting those first initial looks. We'll keep watching how this thing ebbs and flows because there is so much mixing and matching. I don't want to draw any hard conclusions from that, but that was sort of the tenor of today, and that first real run day was Dowdle ahead of Warren.
Any true running back handoffs in, say, team portion for Eli Heidenreich yet?
I don't believe so. I know he worked 2-minute the Saturday practice, so there were a couple of gun runs, I guess, in those moments. But in terms of the under center type of stuff in the team run period, I don't think I really have any notes. Let me double check that with Heidenreich today.
Okay.
He was getting snaps at running back, but I don't think he had an official carry in my notes today.
All right, that's one of the things I'll be interested to see when they get into preseason, if he gets any of those true kind of handoffs.
I would expect him to. I mean, I think he's certainly, they're using him like a running back through and through. Right. So I think he will get them. How many number might not be large, but he'll be used like a regular running back.
All right, a couple of big guys had their hand in the dirt in the backfield, according to some of your posts there.
Yeah, there was one from Darnell Washington. I just saw it in that initial warm-up. I did not see it during team, but there was a lot of Riley Nowakowski playing fullback today in strong I formation. And so he's played tight end. In the individual period, he was beginning with the running backs through ball security drills and then ran routes with the tight ends later on during that Indy period. And so he's kind of been playing both, playing running back in terms of being with that group and then playing tight end and working with those guys too. So he's got good hands, and just some of the stuff I've watched, hasn't had a lot of catches during the team period, but just watching him go through drills, the guy catches the ball away from his chest and pretty clean, pretty consistent.
All right, let's talk about what you observed maybe from the other tight ends. Pat Freiermuth have to rescue any kids from any fan scuffles, autograph hunting today?
It's become a big story, maybe bigger than I even thought it would be initially, but obviously kudos to Pat for the quick thinking. Robert Tonyan has become not saving kids, but maybe saving these young quarterbacks from just being the check down. I'm on my game. Just a real safety valve kind of check down option, just peppered with targets anytime the quarterback, Howard or Aller, feels like they're in trouble. It feels like the ball's going checking down to Robert Tonyan. The guy makes himself open. There was one play, Drew Allard boots right, nothing there in the flat. You have Tonyan kind of settling backside-ish, sort of to that right side, but not coming across the formation. The defense loses him. He makes the catch and gets 5-6 yards. So Tonyan certainly, and you would expect that from a veteran, feels like that security blanket for those young quarterbacks.
Alex, is there a world that Riley Nowakowski doesn't make the 53 and goes to the practice squad and Tonyan, and they carry just three true tight ends in Friermuth, Washington, and Tonyan? Is that outlandish to even think that could possibly happen?
I'm not going to close the door to the idea still so early, one padded practice in, but I would find that idea of Nowakowski missing the 53 as unlikely.
Okay. All right.
Onion could make it too. I don't want to say it's one or the
Right.
other, but I think Nowakowski getting left off is doubtful.
All right. Had to get that one in there today. Let's see. Nothing else on a tight end, so let's move to the wide receiver group today.
Yeah, DK Metcalf making some plays, some good catches. Rogers hit him for a pretty deep ball, 25 plus yards down the left sideline over Jamel Dean. Roman Wilson, there were some good moments from him. There was one near touchdown back of the end zone in 2 minutes, and he skied up for the ball back of the end zone, leapt high in the air, came down with it. The ref ruled him out of bounds, and obviously you got to get your feet down. That's all that matters. But I think Rogers talked about him feeling a little more confident, like he knows what he's doing, and isn't kind of that deer in the headlights type of feel that he had last year. I think the play is supporting that. Had a really nice contested catch against Jack Sawyer in zone coverage. He wasn't far downfield, 5+ yards, but Rogers put it up, and Roman Wilson showed that vertical and came up and made the catch. And so making those tough catches and those contested moments will certainly endear himself to Aaron Rodgers and the coaching staff.
All right. Of the non-controversial things Rodgers had to say during the McAfee interview today, I talked about Roman Wilson, his growth and all. He says Roman's grown a lot. I think he's done a nice job in the spring, and he's had some plays as well. He has a different skill set. He says, I say that to stick in the league, you have to do something well, and to have a long career, you got to have an excellent trait, and his is his speed, and he is legitimately one of the fastest guys on the field at all times, if not the fastest guy. So when he's using that speed and he's dangerous, the thing that's different from him from last year, I felt like he was kind of like a deer running around, bouncing around, and now he's like a very finely tuned fast guy where he had to feel like has the feel where he's playing like almost under control with that top end speed, and he's had a really nice spring and nice start to the camp there. How with the speed, would you go as far as to say he might be the fastest guy on the field?
I mean, he's up there. I mean, he ran what did he run coming out of Michigan? 4.3 something, I think. I mean, DK Metcalf is obviously a burner, and that speed at that size just feels different whenever he moves and gets into high gear. But yeah, Wilson has a ton of speed. There's no question about that. And he's a threat to win vertically and a threat to eat up cushions against corners every time he takes a rep. And I think he's probably just playing faster this year, maybe playing at that time speed now with a little more confidence, a little more surety of himself, and just having the continuity with Aaron Rodgers. So still kind of waiting for that one signature play in camp. Of course, it's still early, just 5 days in, but he does feel different this year.
Is A.T. Perry the top of the, say, third unit wide receivers right now?
I don't want to get too in the weeds of how you want to determine who's part of that group, but I would say of the receivers not really talked about, Brandon Smith is still working kind of with the ones on the back end of that ones depth chart. And if you could look at the actual twos, who's the top guy there, they're all kind of still jumbled together, Perry and Wentz and Hurlman, but I think Brandon Smith is sort of the leader in terms of that group of guys. Maybe still getting the most amount of burn and the most the highest ladder reps, if that makes sense.
Okay. Anything else on wide receivers? And I think you got some developments with the old offensive line today.
Yeah, let's just go to the offensive line now. And I think the star of the day, from what I was able to observe, was Maxi Honachor, and it feels like that's a sentiment offered by many people that were watching practice day, including players. And you look at him in the O-line, D-line one-on-one, some tough battles against Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt and Jack Sawyer, and I don't think Honachor lost a rep. There was a couple of good battles there, but he really held his own. He's patient in his pass set. He's athletic. He's got a big base. He's long. He's big. It's hard to get around. You kind of saw that athletic profile that got him drafted really at play today, even watching him in team. Couple of reps there against Herbig and Sawyer looking good. Maybe a little worse in run blocking. There was one where Watt got off of him and tagged the running back, and so probably some work to be done there. But just kind of seeing the traits in pass pro, his feet. What's the old saying? It's feet, hip, and hands. I mean, those are all there for Ihana Shore. I thought it was a really good day for him.
All right. The fact that seems to be the talking point coming out of the first padded practice with your first round draft pick. There's nothing wrong with that, is there?
No, it's encouraging, and that's why you wait for the pads to come on to really start evaluating these guys at trench plays where you can really start talking about those guys. That's why we haven't talked about Ihana Shore much to this point because there just isn't a whole lot to note. I think there was some I honestly forget what beat guy it was, but talking about him looking like a rookie, it's just hard to really draw that conclusion through those first 4 practices. And one of them was a review day where the intensity was really non-existent. It was just a walkthrough. So, guys can transform when the pads come on. Ihanachour certainly looked the part today. Just one day, but a really good day for Max Ihanachour.
All right. What else is in your notes about the offensive lineman today?
I mean, that's the big one. There was some other good battles. Zach Frazier. Fautani probably, though, had the best individual rep of anybody during that session, at least of the ones that I watched. Again, they were doing them 2 at a time, and so I couldn't watch every single moment, but he had a really good chop down at Cam Hayward whenever Hayward shot his hands, and Fautanu, like the old Villanueva chop, just knocked his hands down. Hayward went to the ground, and Fautanu hit him with a Dikembe Mutombo finger wag, and so that was a really good rep there. Hayward had a couple of better reps later in practice, but that was nice from Fautanu. And then Doug Nestor getting just a look at center. I don't think he snapped during the team drills, but during their warm-ups, it's always been the centers and the quarterbacks get down there early. They do their stretch line before the team, and so they can go work on snaps and exchanges as the team goes through stretch line. Usually that's the centers. And then Mason McCormick. Today, Doug Nestor joined them, and so he did not, again, I don't think he snapped in team, but just kind of took some reps with Greg Crippen, trading off center reps to True Aller. Nestor was playing left tackle a little bit later in practice. And so this guy's kind of played everything. He played guard last year in Pittsburgh. He opened up right tackle this year. He played some center in that warm-up and then left tackle too. So really trying to show 5 position flexibility, which will really help his cause for the practice squad.
Yeah, when we ran down the 90 and 30 with him, we talked about the position flexibility and kind of wondered where he would start off in camp. And I guess, look, I mean, a lot of bad stuff would probably have to happen for him to make the 53-man roster here. But when we get into preseason games, we'll obviously be charting all that to see how much they move him around at maybe some different positions there. So that's some good intel there on Nestor for the Monday practice there. Let's talk.
One other note, just offensive. Go ahead.
Yeah,
I think you're leading me there.
Yeah, Broderick Jones, first day in pads.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy he's out there working full. I mean, that's just a really good kind of box to check. I mean, he's been checking every sort of health box and clearance, and so I assume he's basically been fully cleared because with the contact, even though it's not tackling or a true game situation, you're still risking you're creating contact with the defensive lineman. There's a risk there for a guy with a neck injury, so I assume he's just fully cleared and business as usual. I did see Dean Lowry kind of power through him on one run play, and so you do wonder, Jones does look smaller out there, and you do wonder about just strength and him kind of getting his legs back under him, missing all the weight room stuff in the spring and just all the time that he's been off for, and so you do kind of wonder from a strength standpoint, is he still working his way back? It feels like it, but we'll keep watching going forward.
All right. Anything on the other offensive lineman, rookie Dunker?
He was working with the 2s during that O-line, D-line period, and so he did not flip over to the 1s, and so I just did not get to watch him. So next time they do it, I'll be watching that second group. I would just have to probably trade off each day is the way I'll have to assess it. So don't have much information on Dunker, unfortunately.
All right. That it for the offensive line?
Yeah, I think that covers it well.
All right. Let's move over to the defensive line.
Thought nice day for Seizi Otomewa. He broke up a screen pass that was to the left side, and he got his hand in there and knocked it away. Then somehow Jalen Warren behind the play, not in the rep, caught it and just kind of got zany from there. But good play by Otomewa. He batted down a Will Howard pass in 2 minutes, and so just active. This defense lineman, they can't obviously sack the quarterback, so can you impact the play some other way? And he certainly did. And with Logan Lee being out today, just taking advantage of the opportunity, making a name for himself. And I know last week many people in my mentions were very excited to hear about Keanu Benton playing defensive end, not nose tackle. The nose tackle days may not be dead. He was working first team nose tackle throughout practice today. So he's played end, he's played nose tackle. We'll see what the plan is forward, but he was working nose tackle today with Harmon at left end and Hayward at right end, or sometimes Joseph Day at left end. So this thing's still maybe fluid in terms of where Benton will be aligning.
What about Rubio? Still nose or moving up and down?
No, still nose tackle in Pittsburgh's base 3-4, and then some sub-package stuff with Dean Larry as a D tackle, probably one tech in those situations. So still running nose tackle.
All right. Anything else you'd like to add about that position group?
I'm trying to think. I thought Harmon Black had a couple good rushes, one-on-one. I thought they showed a little pass rush juice and kind of getting off of blocks. That's going to be big for those guys. Harmon especially. Can he win cleaner? Can he win more immediately this year than some of the slow burn pass rush stuff last year? That'll be a mission for him. Keanu Benton had some really good reps too. It's not a big surprise that club swim. He got Frazier on one. He was able to beat a couple guys cleanly on that signature move that he has going to his right as always. So some really probably the standout guys that I saw in that one-on-one drill today was Ihanacho offensively and Benton defensively.
All right. How about some outside linebacker talk? And I'll tell you the two things that stuck out to me on some clips that are floating around was Jack Sawyer working on push-pull. That's good to see. And Alex Highsmith looked like trying to work on his spin move from the left side of the line.
Yeah, he's going to have to.
And that's all I got.
No, that's good insight. And yeah, you think about, okay, TJ Watt moves around, but other guys naturally have to move around too. And Highsmith will have to learn his moves from the other side. And so usually his spin moves from the right side, spinning to, I guess, his left. Now he's going to have to reverse that. And so I saw the clip of him working in that individual period on that move. Yeah, I mean, I thought Herbeck had a couple of good rushes around the edge against Fautanu in team and in the one-on-one period. I mean, I think one takeaway I have kind of globally for the defense is just how aggressive it was. All the blitzes, all these mug looks with the linebackers, double barrel in the A gap, and Pittsburgh responding with a sniffer. And if you don't know what a sniffer is, it's where the running back kind of stands also up in the A gap, basically to defend that potential blitzer as opposed to staying in the backfield sidecar to the quarterback. It's pretty common around the NFL. Pittsburgh's not done it a ton in recent years, but that probably will be changing under Mike McCarthy. So a lot of pressure, a lot of blitzes from Patrick Graham throughout practice. Probably going to be a signature of him. We talked about that after his hire. And then even in that one-on-one drill, you had Nick Herbig. Normally he's rushing at his outside linebacker spot, and he did that a couple times today, but they also had him rushing over A gap because in those three outside linebacker packages, he'll be often playing over A gap, over B gap, not just on the edge. TJ Watt rushing over guard, over Spencer Anderson, one rep because they're going to move him around a little bit. So I like seeing that in the drill too, for those guys to really work on that stuff because they're going to be doing it in team period and during the game. Didn't really see that last year, and so I think that's a good application of the versatility that they plan to use with those guys.
All right, good stuff. How about the inside linebacker position today?
One other note at outside linebacker, it also applies to inside. Malik Harrison playing some outside linebacker today in the 2-minute drill. He was working right outside linebacker. That may be a little bit because the lines are but they're a little thin at outside linebacker just naturally, and then just trying to find a way for Harrison to get some reps as he's been getting the squeeze at inside linebacker. And Harrison has played a little bit on the edge in the past, mostly penny fronts, rundowns in Baltimore, but has a little bit of a skill set and familiarity at that spot. So just wanted to note that.
Okay.
Patrick Queen with the interception was obviously a good play. And so even though it was maybe in part because Dowdle didn't find the football, still for Queen to make the plays, always good to see in coverage.
Absolutely. What else at inside linebacker? Anything stick out in first day in pads?
Yeah, those were the big things. I thought Bruner and Peyton Wilson were pretty active in the run session, so they were around the ball quite a bit.
All right, let's go defensive backs right now.
Yeah, not a ton probably not a ton at defensive back across the board because I wasn't watching like the 7-on-7 period. So Jamel Dean's given a couple plays to Metcalf, but I'm not going to make too much out of it here. So early in training camp and some of these sessions, the defense can't really contest much. What else do I have? Robert Spears-Jennings continues to get a lot of first-team reps here with Elliott. Not, all the way back. I know McCarthy spoke about that a little bit, so that's quality reps there for the rookie. Brisker, I thought, good tone setter, good energy today. I think Rogers kind of made a little quip about that on McAfee, that you're going to hear Brisker a lot kind of chirp throughout this process. And Brandon Echols getting a lot of time in the slot because with Ramsey being out and when they're in the ones group there and It's a lot of opportunity for Brendan Eccles to get some good quality work.
And who's coming in after Eccles in the slot?
Let me check my notes here because whenever they're split off, I'm not even sure there's really been a true backup on that initial team period. Who was it during the 2-minute drill today? There, I do want to try to double check that. Give me 1 second while I try to find who was. Was it Jameson or was it not? Trying to see who was it. Will Howard coming in with the twos. I don't know if I have a note
All right.
on that for the slot corner. If I find it as we talk, I'll let you know.
All right. That'll definitely be something that we tracked during the preseason here as well too with the charting, and you chart the defense, so you'll be right on top of that. Okay. Anything else? Any special team notes today?
No, not really. They were working on hands team, onside kick stuff, some punting. You had Wilson and Weegan returning. Should note Dylan Everett, some up and down. He got called for PI in 2 minutes and then had a good breakup on the final throw from Will Howard. So, a guy that's willing to be physical, get hands on, still needs to walk that line between being too physical to the point of a flag, but still kind of using his size and just, be an aggressive corner. But I think that's probably all I have on that front. Yeah, I can't find slot corner. I mean, Jameson's been working slot. Danico Slaughter's been working slot. A little bit of Devon Boykin also working slot when he's not at safety. So those have kind of been your next men up at corner, just looking at not even just a particular drill, but just in camp who's been playing slots, been a lot of those guys.
All right. Jenkins jump right into some late grouping pairings.
Yeah, he got some work in team today. So maybe not every single team period, but probably half of them. I think the early period and then maybe in 2 minutes or one of the team run sessions. So not 100% in, but for a first day, a lot of activity, and I'm sure that will only ramp up throughout the week.
All right. Any kind of 30,000-foot takeaways from the first day in pad?
Honda Chore certainly stood out and really kind of getting to make some noise as the first round pick, just because it's hard for us to talk about a lineman early on. So that was nice. The offense felt a little sloppy. The defense felt aggressive and blitz happy, and those are kind of the big takeaways of the day.
All right. You will be back out there on Tuesday for what we assume would be their second padded practice of 2026 training camp. Expected to kind of ramp up a little bit more than what we saw on Monday, right?
Yeah, I think they're still technically in the ramp up period for even padded practices until I want to say Thursday. I think McCarthy talked about that.
Thursday,
with some
Friday,
shorter...
and Saturday will be the bigger days, he said on Monday.
Right. So I'm not entirely sure the plan. You can never guarantee they're going to be in pads on a certain day. I know it's 3 or 4 straight days in a row of pads. You then have to go padless. I forget the exact details on that. Obviously, it could be just second day tomorrow, then off day Wednesday. So I'm going to assume they'll be in pads, but we'll find out bright and early tomorrow morning.
All right. Look forward to getting back with you for the Tuesday wrap up of training camp practice. And that, of course, will be posted as soon as you get your diary up and get settled and get a cold drink in you and all. If you want more, a deeper dive into what Alex observed on Monday, that's pinned at the top of SteelersDepot.com. And that's the case every day as soon as that post goes up on the site. So make sure you stop by SteelersDepot.com to read that. And once again, we try to recap as much as we can in the shortest amount of time on these recap podcasts and get any maybe off the top of my head type questions answered. And Alex, as always, does a great job with that. So until Tuesday, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, as always, you can go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button, and follow the directions that way. Great job again, Alex. Make sure you're staying cool out there. And until next time, folks, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast, another special edition of the Terrible Podcast, Pittsburgh Steelers Training Camp 2026 with Dave and Alex.